It's time for the Volquest Mailbag Podcast, answering your questions from the General's quarters every week, right here on Volquest.
Good Thursday, everyone. Welcome to the Volquest.com Mailbag Podcast with Austin Price and Rob Lewis. I'm Brent Hubbs. Glad to have you along with us on this Thursday. Hope Tennessee is doing well. Josh Heupel to meet the media in just a little bit. We'll have full coverage of that coming up later today, and the matchup piece coming up later as well. But for the next bit here, we want to talk to you about answering your questions in the Mailbag edition of the podcast presented by Smoky Mountain Organics. Remember, visit one of their 4 locations in Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, Sevierville, and their newest location in Knoxville, which is right across the street from Trader Joe's on Kingston Pike. You can visit them online at SmokyMountainOrganics.com. Smoky Mountain Organic features the best brands of bath and body care items, organic teas. They got the largest selection of plant therapy essential oils in Tennessee, their CBD products, much, much more. That's at Smoky Mountain Organics. Remember, be sure and tell them if you're in the store that mention Volquest to them, and you'll get 15% off your total purchase. That's an in-store purchases only. That's Smoky Mountain Organics. All right, let's get to the Mailbag Podcast and get to the questions. Guys, in a stunning development, there's a lot of questions about the quarterback this week. So
how many of them are
anybody?
How many of them are from Matt for Rocky Top, Gritty, Navy Guy 44, who in his defense has really calmed down.
I don't think any of them come from those collections, but we'll see as we roll through here. So
they already have such concrete opinions. There's no reason for them to ask the question.
They've already got the answers to their mailbag questions. All right, here we go. We'll get started with a non-quarterback question here by UT Sportsman 16. Aside from the quarterback play, what needs to happen for this team to make a bowl? You can only pick one of the following: 1, offensive line staying healthy, playing well; 2, improved pass rush. Which one of those 2 things must happen for Tennessee to make it to a bowl, assuming that they are not self-imposing some kind of bowl ban at this point?
Well, I would go pass rush, and here's why. Because I think if Hendon Hooker's your quarterback, your offensive line doesn't have to improve to still score points because you can make plays with your legs and move the pocket. So I'll go pass rush for that very reason. If it's somebody else, I think it would have to be offensive line.
I'm going to go offensive line, just to play a little bit of devil's advocate. I do think the pass rush needs to get better, but boy, I mean, I think they're well short of having those 9 or 10 guys that Glenn Elby talked about being ready to play back in August. And I think you've seen already what just losing Cooper did to them last week against Pitt, because I don't think they were very good. You know, the quarterbacks really prettied up the run stats. Like, neither Jabari Small nor Jalen Wright hit 20 yards rushing for the day.
33 yards combined by those 2 guys. I'm going to go offensive line. I think you can generate a pass rush with some blitz. Probably you don't want to have to blitz all the time, but you can at least try to generate a pass rush by bringing extra people. You're not going to win in the SEC with 10 penalties, 8 sacks, half dozen holding calls in a 2-game span like that. So I'm going to jump and say the offensive line, although I do think there's some merit to the offensive line not having to be great if your quarterback is elusive like Hendon Hooker was in the first game. But overall, I think I got to go offensive line and if the question is framed that way. C. Trout M1 wants to know, do you have any clue what Heupel was referring to when he talked about players needing to be better in the 48 hours leading up to the game? I asked Josh Heupel about that Wednesday night on Vol calls. He said, it's just being dialed in, focused, being on time where you needed to be, having all the right answers to the questions that you're given late in the game, much like we've heard Rick Barnes for years talk about, being able to follow your scouting report, know your scouting report. Austin, just sounds like this group was not terrible last week, but a little maybe laissez-faire about some things after week 1. And it certainly has not set well with Josh Heupel, because he has referenced it at every opportunity he's had to speak to the media about anything.
Well, I think for him, he's let them have some kind of space and some autonomy to do different things. I mean, there's kind of like no set uniform for them on game day, as far as like, and everybody wears orange on white or orange on orange. But I mean, like, if a guy wants to wear long socks, he can. If he wants to wear short socks, he can. If he wants to wear 2 arm sleeves, 3 headbands, whatever. Like, there's not anything that like previous staffs have said, okay, we're all going to wear big socks, or all we're going to wear short socks, or we're all going to whatever. He's letting them kind of have some, individual tendencies. And so I think, when he asks them to do things like show up on time to a meeting or whatever else, he expects them to do that because he is letting them have more freedom than they've had before. So I think that's probably where the frustration comes in with a little bit.
Yep. Clearly it bothered him, Rob Lewis. I mean, he's constantly referenced it. It's something that he's been mentioning and talking about. So we'll see if this team's any better. He referenced on Wednesday night, said, hey, the team's been really good Monday through Wednesday this week. We'll see how they finish. They got to finish the week better than they finished it a week ago for sure. I promise there are some quarterback questions coming in this mailbag podcast, but they're not off the top apparently. JD Vol 98 wants to know any updates with the black uniforms. Austin, you say they're coming at some point, right?
I think the black uniforms are honestly here. I think it's all about wanting to do a different helmet and getting the helmet here.
So, but when they wear them depends on when those arrive.
Yes, in my opinion. If the helmet don't come in, they won't just wear them to wear them.
Okay. All right.
In my opinion.
Tampa Ball wants to know, Rob, any talks of future basketball opponents aside from Memphis and Arizona? Basketball scheduling strange though, right, Rob? I mean, it's not like you do something 3 or 4 years out unless you're getting into one of those
it'll
preseason holiday tournaments or something like that, right?
Yeah, I mean they all know each other so well. I mean, you can do that with a phone call in April. I remember hearing the Arizona thing came together, so quickly. I mean, so no, they're not working on anything big. I think as long as Rick is here and Mark Few is at Gonzaga, you probably see them play every couple of years. I know Rick was wanting to do something like in Nashville and Seattle. He does not want to go to is that Spokane?
Mm-hmm.
He does not want to do that. He would like to play them, not necessarily neutral court, but like Tennessee did a few years ago, play them in Seattle and then have Gonzaga come back and play them in Nashville. So I'd look for that one to pop up again. Well, if both those coaches are still there for a while.
All right. Tampa Ball also wants to know an update on D. Beckwith and if he's healthy, or is there a reason why he hasn't been dressed and hasn't played?
Just not good enough to get out there.
Same thing with Aubrey Solomon, right? I mean, he's not played either. I mean, just not made a move on the depth chart. We'll see if those guys factor in and play this weekend or how that goes. But to this point, that's they just haven't been called upon. I don't think either one of them are out. They both practiced. They've been practicing. They practiced all of fall camp. What's been the 3 biggest shocks for you guys in the first 2 games? I'll go first on this one while you guys ponder on it. 1, Joe Milton's inability to hit a deep ball. If you'd have said he was going to go 0 for 6 or whatever the number is now, I would have bet the house that was not going to happen. That's one.
And to open guys too. It's not like he's had to put it into some tight window 40 yards downfield.
Yeah. Special teams play. I don't know about shock, but the amount of young players that they're getting production with out of the special teams unit has been a very pleasant surprise for me. And then the third shock to me has been Trayvon Flowers. I thought he would be much better based on all of the buzz that he was getting from a lot of people in the preseason and the camp he had in August. It just has not translated through the first 2 games thus far. That's my 3.
I'll go. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
You got to mention it. You got to mention Milton's inaccuracy downfield. I mean, I think that's going to be on everybody's list. Individually, really, I don't know about shocked, but surprised at how good Matthew Butler has been. I mean, I think everybody would have expected Matthew to be a good, productive part of the defensive front. But I think he's been really good. The folks at Pro Football Focus right now through 2 games have him rated out at 92, which is, I mean, that's way up there nationally. Because when, we'll see if that holds, small sample size, but I think he's been really good. And I am shocked that Salon Page and Aaron Beasley are playing 25, 30 snaps a game.
For me, it's a combination of Joe Milton and the receivers with drops. And
So
I'm
passing
shocked.
game in general.
Yeah, in general, I'm shocked. Chase McGrath's been so solid and doing it from decent distance. It's not like he's been
got a 48-yarder.
Yeah, not like he's been chipping in 32-yarders. I mean, he really has been solid through 2 games. And then I'll go with Rob. I mean, the amount of snaps that Page is getting is a shocker to me.
Chase McGrath with the ever popular 48-yarder from the set of downs that started inside the 10-yard line, which is always the red zone production you're looking for there. Tampa Ball's last question is, how much does the AD have in the bank? I'm not sure if he means athletics director or athletics department. The AD's got a lot in the bank based on that contract. He's going to have a lot in the bank because it rolls over, and he's got a great security net if they ever want to decide to make a move there. So he's got a lot of money in the bank. As for the athletic department, they don't have near enough money in the bank, which is why they're trying to raise as much money as they can. There was approval by the state on Wednesday for the next phase of Neyland Stadium, which came as no surprise. That just an amendment to that phase that was already pre-approved. Of course, that's the renovations that will take place on the west side with those club seats going on. The north side jumbotron with that kind of bar scene, if you will, or whatever you want to call that, outdoor patio. And then they're going to replace the screen in the south end zone jumbotron to match the technology and the HD and everything of the screen in the north side. So no surprise that was approved, and that will get started as soon as the home schedule is completed this year moving forward.
I wish they'd go 4 corners with the jumbotrons like they have at A&M and Bama. I like that.
I kind of like the 4 corners too. I don't know that works because there's not real corners there. I mean, both those other stadiums have kind of
you're right. They're kind of
a corner and not a rounded
hexagonal
deal. But I do think that is it's a better vantage point, a viewing point for fans out there. I think it's a good look. I just don't know that it would work with the way that the stadium's laid out. All right, here we go into those quarterback questions now. What do y'all see from Hooker that would make you think he's better than Joe? Joe could do about all the throws Hendon was doing, except he hasn't turned the ball over. That from Vol since 1996.
Yeah, Joe has turned it over twice. I mean, once in each game. So, I mean, he just not with an interception, but he's lost a fumble. If Milton's going to be as inaccurate as he is, I mean, that's an easy decision for me to play Hooker.
They both have the same number of turnovers. I mean, I'm not sure, Austin, that Joe, with the way he's thrown the ball to this point, could have made all those throws that Joe made on or that Hendon made on Saturday. The throw to Jacob Warren in the end zone for a touchdown was perfect ball placement. And I thought his placement to Jimmy Callaway to give him a chance on that 55-yard touchdown play was good ball placement too. I mean, does he drive the ball down the field? We haven't seen that. But his ball placement accuracy on those 2 throws in particular were really good plays, and we haven't seen that accuracy overall from Joe Milton to this point.
Well, Joe's been actually pretty good on the throws that Hendon did make. Now, like the throw to Jacob Warren, that was like a 30-yarder down to the 7 or 8 yard line or whatever, in the fourth quarter. I thought that's the throw Joe's not been able to make, the one with touch across the middle. But anything like, I think he could have thrown the same pass to Jimmy Callaway and been just fine. Could he have made that throw to Warren on the touchdown? I mean, I guess so. I think he can make any throw. Yeah, right. I mean, I just think that, for whatever reason, he has more confidence right now making those throws than he does the deep ball throws, which again, it goes back to why you were so shocked. And I think all of us have been so shocked that, they've struggled so mightily with that because they have had guys running open. I think the people that, don't understand the Hooker love, based off the fact that he has turned it over 3 times. He had the forced fumble late in the game against Bowling Green, and then, had the fumble and the pick last week against Pitt. So, he's got 3 turnovers. Joe's got the 2 fumbles. So I get why that there's such a division. And right now, truth be told, guys, everybody in this fan base is dealing with JG hangover. I mean, had anybody shown a pulse the first two games to the point where you really kind of felt good without turning the ball over, this fan base would have gravitated towards him so hard because of the last 4 years.
Yeah, and I'm not saying Hooker is flawless or, Josh Dobbs or anything like that. I just think that right now he's a better option. I mean, he's got his faults, and it takes about 10 minutes or less of watching practice to know who has more physical talent. It's Joe Milton, but he's not producing.
I would like to see, of course, Joe has to be healthy. I would like to see, them kind of do with Joe what the last staff did with Jarrett. Let him maybe see it from the sidelines for a series or two. I'm not saying you do that every game. I think that's insane. But, if you're going to try to work him back in, kind of go that route, let him see it develop versus, just saying go.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing with Hendon that got everybody's attention too is the fact of what he could do with his legs, and the fact that he became a runner when he started scrambling, or they called a run play for him. I don't think I know he had the one long run straight line, but he's not made anybody miss. He's not been, quote, an elusive runner, and I think that's something that was attractive to Tennessee fans in seeing that on Saturday as well. So, I don't think that – I think Austin or Rob, one of you guys said it best on the roundtable. Both of you said it. They're both going to play. It's going to sort itself out, and nobody's mothballing anybody or hitching their wagon to anybody at this point. I mean, it is still just kind of wide open, and we'll see how it goes from there.
Well, my thing was, of course, all this is based – this whole opinion is based off of Joe being healthy. But the more I thought about it all week, the more I thought, they should let Joe play through this. If he's their guy, and he's back healthy, let him play through it, and because I do think part of the problem, and I know JG played for 4 years, but the last couple of years, there's been so much yo-yoing, back and forth that you just can't play through anything. It's kind of like the shooter that is in a touch of a slump. You just let him sit over there and get the mothballs, as you said, or do you let him kind of shoot his way out of it? I mean, Saturday's a good game to shoot your way out of it. Again, all that based off him being healthy and being able to play.
And this is
because after the game, I was knee jerk. I was like, you got to move to Hooker. But then the more I thought about it, I just felt like, that's probably not fair. It wouldn't be fair if Hendon Hooker was the starter begin the year and had totally struggled.
You'd expect Tennessee Tech to be a kind of a lay down anyway, but this is looking at stuff for the matchup. This is a really bad defense, and it's really bad in the secondary. They're giving up almost 300 yards a game through 2 games. They have 1 sack. This is going to be one where somebody can leave feeling pretty good about themselves.
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee should be able to do whatever they want to do in this game. I mean, I think Tennessee Tech averages about 250 pounds up front, 260 pounds up front across the board on the D-line. They're really small. People have run it on them. People have thrown it on them. And then offensively, they've not been able to do anything either. So this is certainly the opportunity to get some people right for sure. Vol Rocker, we go next with a recruiting question. What's the latest on Nolan? Haven't heard his name mentioned much. Don't think he's been to Neyland Stadium yet this fall. Is Tennessee fading there, Austin Price?
No, they're not fading. But I mean, they played two games, one on Thursday night, then one at noon. He went to Michigan this past weekend. He's going to go other places. Tennessee's not fading. They'll be there till the end. Now, does he end up here? It could go 100 different ways. And I've said that for forever. And my stance has never really changed. Anybody that kind of went all in on Walter Nolan as a lock to Tennessee a few months ago, I said that was silly at the time because so much can change, and so much has changed with him. I mean, look, he just changed. He put out top 3, changed the top 3, then goes and visits a school that's not in his top 3. I mean, you know what I mean? It's going to be just a bunch of twists and turns.
Yep, that sums it up pretty well at this point in time. All right, 2 hoops questions to you, Rob Lewis. How's the staff feeling about Wallace heading into his official visit? Are they still somewhat quietly confident in your opinion? How do you like the Vols' chances with Kyron Lindsey seems like with others off the board, he might be the most gettable. Any update on Julian Phillips potentially official visiting this fall, or any other potential official visits for the fall? We'll start there on those first run of basketball questions.
No, nothing. I don't have any more visitors. Tennessee's working to get Phillips hard. I think that's going to be a tough pull, in my opinion. With Wallace, I mean, I still quietly confident, but certainly not cocky. I mean, when you're recruiting against Kentucky, you never can be. So, like I've been saying for weeks now, dogfight. That's how I would describe that. And Lindsey, yeah, I mean, I think Tennessee's in a good spot with him, assuming that he makes it to campus. And I would agree that considering some of the way some things are looking with some other guys, that he's probably more realistic than some. But I wouldn't call that a slam dunk by any stretch of the imagination.
All right. Does this coaching staff think is it Mashak and
Jemai Mashak?
Yeah, and or Jonas will be able to contribute this season? Any buzz around BHH and is he thought to be a one and done?
Well, I mean, we're going to need to see Brandon Huntley Hatfield play a couple of college games before anybody has an opinion on whether he's one or done. Certainly possible. There'll be people around him hoping that's the case, but we're a long way from. He is not a slam dunk by any stretch of the imagination. And yeah, they think Jonas. I don't know if Jemai how many minutes he will play, but I can promise you they like him a lot, an awful lot. I mean, Tennessee has a really crowded backcourt, and whether or not he gets 10 to 12 minutes a game, I don't know, but I can promise you the staff likes him, and yeah, they expect Jonas to contribute.
Hypothetically speaking, Austin Price, if two of the quarterbacks on the roster leave after the season's end, is a transfer in the next class a must? We've already seen such a turnover with having 5 scholarship guys to start spring practice.
Well, if they pass the rule like everybody's expecting them to pass, then yeah, I mean, if you lose somebody to the portal, Tennessee's going to likely bring somebody back in out of the portal that's a quarterback. I mean, I definitely think they're going to add a second quarterback, whether it's via transfer portal or or potentially another high school kid. But I would lean transfer portal at the end of the season if you're kind of asking me what direction Tennessee's going to go.
AP, I should know this, but is Jackson an early enrollee?
He is, yes.
It could be big.
Yep, that certainly could make things interesting in the spring from a competition standpoint, and might make things interesting in terms of who is interested in Tennessee from a transfer portal standpoint as well. Vol Farm D, several players and you all have said that the defensive scheme is much simpler and is allowing players to play faster. Can you guys elaborate on that a bit? What is so different from Pruitt's scheme, pre-snap things, formations, etc.? It's all about checks. It's all about the rules for the checks, I think, is different. I think there's some standard rules in Tim Banks' system, and I think the complexity of why you checked, what you checked to, when you checked it, was much more complicated in Jeremy Pruitt's system. Austin, maybe you disagree with this, but it felt like that Jeremy Pruitt was trying to get in the perfect defensive play call every snap, that there was enough rules and checks to be in the perfect call every snap. I don't think that's the vibe of this defense. There's checks to this defense, but I don't think it's that specific to try to be in the, quote, perfect defense every play.
Well, it's kind of like the offense. I mean, Jim Chaney's offensive playbook was so big. I mean, there were several offensive staff members last year that, had that staff been given another year, we're going to push hard to dummy it down going into this year because that's how complicated it was for a lot of those kids. And so I think much like that on the defensive side too, instead of just kind of, playing with what you got and putting and calling the defensive play, they tried to check too much and it probably, did put the kids in a tough spot because the kids just couldn't mentally handle all the checking and all the, and just the expansive defensive playbook.
All right, can't get right. 8402 has a question with 2 possible answers here. If you're coaching Saturday, what's your priority? Austin, you can't say the wheel route is your priority. 1, playing the starters enough to make sure things look crisp and efficient, or play as many guys as you can to see where you are depth-wise. I'm playing as many bodies as I can play in this game is what I'm doing. I mean, yeah, you want to be crisp early in the game, but I'm seeing who I got above the line and below the line before I get in an SEC gauntlet. I want to see guys I've not seen in different situations, Rob. That's where I'm going first with this one.
Yeah, and I think you can do both in this. I mean, Tennessee Tech is so bad. I mean, it's not just being overmatched because they're an FCS school. They are a bad FCS school. So, I mean, I think you can play your starters for the first half and do what
Maryville or Tennessee Tech. Maryville or Tennessee Tech. Go.
Oh, I don't know. You mean the Maryville High School Rebels or the Division III Maryville Scots?
No, Maryville Rebels against Tennessee Tech.
Tennessee Tech, surely.
I'm taking the Golden Eagles there, but they're not a very good team.
And I think you can get 6 or 8 drives with your starters, and in the first half, get everything you want done, and then open the floodgates in the second half.
Hey, who's got more wins at Tucker Stadium, Maryville or Tennessee Tech?
Now, that's a good question. I'd have to go dig out the TSSAA record book to take a look at that one. All right, Blue Miss Ball wants to know, with all the attention being given to the quarterback position, and by many, specifically Harrison Bailey, there's so much undue pressure for instant evaluations of what development would be required for them to be the QB1 in the future. Considering that Bailey is still a freshman quarterback under a quarterback-savvy coach with a new system, but also likely to face even more competition going forward with Jackson. What is his future? Base your answer off as either he stays, he plays, or we need to both move on.
Well, my thing is, and I said this a year ago, well over a year ago, actually, dating back to, spring of 2020. The worst thing that happened to Harrison Bailey was he got that 5th star late in the process, because then extra added pressure got put on him. And I think it was unfair to think that he was going to come in here and ride in on the white horse to save Tennessee football. I mean, he's still a young kid. He's still developing. He's still figuring things out. Does that mean he can be good? He can be good. Sure, he can be good. That doesn't mean he is or warrants being the Tennessee starter right now. I said this the other day on the General's Quarters when, Bassmaster Ball was, talking about the spring game and what he did in the spring game. And I said, well, does that mean David Yancey deserved to be the starting running back based off his performances in the spring game? And, I think it was Matt for Rocky Top, and Bassmaster Ball quickly responded. And I said, guys, I've seen the practice clips when we're not out there, and the errant throws that he makes that are as bad as what Joe Milton has made in round 1. Or in the game 1. That's why he's not been able to get on the field. And, at the end of the day, you got to continue to let him develop. You don't put mothballs on him, and you don't, I just think that if you had me, lean which way, I would say, it's probably going to be hard for him to play here. But at the same time, he just needs an opportunity. But he's going to have to either earn it on the practice field, which is something different than he's had, or he's going to have to take advantage of an opportunity when somebody gets hurt and he gets inserted into the game, or gets benched and inserted into the game.
Dude, I'm not remotely saying he's going to take this path. But, I mean, you had 2 first-round quarterback picks in last year's draft who didn't do anything in the first 3 years of their career. Mac Jones and what's the kid at the Jets? Zach
Wilson.
Zach Wilson. I mean, I'm not saying Harrison's going to do that, but, I mean, it just doesn't – it's not necessarily going to happen in the first 2 or 3 years. And you're exact – AP, I could not agree more with you about the 5th star. Changed everything for as far as expectations for him.
Matt Brad, one wants to know, looking at UT's best chance of pulling out a win in Gainesville next weekend, what would be the best case scenario for the Gators Bama game this weekend? Bama steamroll them like they did Miami a few weeks ago, or a closer heartbreaking loss similar to Florida State's loss to Notre Dame? Or does it really matter since it's Tennessee, Florida, and the Gators will probably play their best game of the year regardless? Fully expect Anthony Richardson's coming out party will happen against the Vols in the swamp. I don't think it matters necessarily, but I don't think Florida is going to be competitive with Alabama on Saturday. I think they'll make a play or two, but I think Alabama is comfortable all day long in the swamp.
But what he said at the end is right. This is going to be the sacrificial lamb game for Emory Jones as he exits stage left, which means it's going to be full Anthony Richardson when the Vols roll into Gainesville. I've said that all week.
Which means a lot of quarterback runs, a lot of quarterback
providing Richardson is healthy. He's got that hamstring. So that's why I said, do they just know that they don't have much of a chance this week and say, Emory, you got it. Let's get Anthony ready for Tennessee.
That makes some sense. All right, a couple more. We're out the gate here. Bronco Vol wants to know what's happened to 22 recruiting. Most of the site content's related to 23 and 24 kids. Realize the staff got a late start, but is the lack of defensive targets concerning to you? Austin, do you think Tennessee circles back and looks at Kenny Paul from Chattanooga or the other kid who was a safety prospect from that area? I think he went to East Hamilton High School, who had a pretty good showing in summer camp. Sorry, don't remember his name.
That's Jeremiah Flemons. No, I don't think they're going to go back that direction. Willie Martinez will be out and about on Friday. I think he's going to go see Jalen Lewis, but, I don't think Tennessee's going to get involved there. I mean, I think it's more, go see how he looks in person and, go that, kind of go that route. But I mean, they've just not done a whole lot with with Anthony Brown and Jalen Lewis to this point. The 22s, I think there's going to be a potential for some of those in-state kids to make it to campus in early October. We'll have full details of that coming up at a later date. They're just the offensive side is pretty much done outside of maybe like one receiver spot. And then defensively, it's a bunch of JUCO corners. You've got, Jeremiah Caldwell from the state of Michigan. You've also got, Jordan Thomas, who, if you were going to say, who's the next Tennessee commit? I'm not sure it happens anytime soon, but right now he would be my lean, Jordan Thomas from Montgomery Catholic. James Pierce had a great time. It was the first time he's ever been to a college football game last weekend. And so I think that he'll remain a top target for Tennessee. Same thing with Joshua Josephs, Walter Nolan, Jacarius Clayton. I think he's going to stay in the state of Mississippi. He's a former Mississippi State commit, now committed to Ole Miss. I just don't see them getting him out of there. Najee Kelly, another one, DeAndre Martin. And really the only offensive guy they're recruiting left is Caleb Webb, who I believe Cody Burns will go see on Friday down in McKeitern down in Atlanta.
Feels like it's going to have a pretty heavy defensive transfer portal feel to this signing class, or in terms of flipping the roster moving forward. It just feels like they're going to be back heavy in the transfer portal. I may not be that big, but it feels like it.
Listen, Tennessee better start signing some kids, and they can't go with 50 portal kids because if they lose a few to the portal, which is I think that's going to happen every year, you're going to lose a few. Kids that just didn't play that want to get, like a guy like D-Beck with. I mean, is he really going to stick around? To me, he's likely headed for the portal at some point. Well, if this rule passes, you can bring somebody up that don't count against your numbers, if they pass it up to 7 things. So, I mean, Tennessee, to me, can go portal, but to me, you don't have to go so portal heavy if that rule passes.
I agree with you. I just don't know how attractive they are at this point in the game to a lot of defensive guys out there. You mentioned a bunch of names, and I think they're certainly in play there, but I don't know that you're saying – I don't think you're saying that they're the leader for 4 or 5 of those guys at this point either. Now, that may change in a month, but we know how quickly guys want to come off the board. All right, guys, last question. Rob, this one's to you. D-Mike96 wants to know, what is the identity of this team shaping up to be? I'm going to let you take that one and go home.
That coming off a game where they had 13 penalties over, I don't know. I can't answer that question. I mean, I think they're I know Heupel griped about the way they prepared in the last 48 hours before the game, but I think I don't know about this. Doesn't answer the question about identity. I think the culture is really positive, and I don't think any of us would have said that last year. I mean, I think that comes from the players and the staff, and I mean, I think this is going to be a team that plays hard. I mean, that's kind of cliche, but I think last year it happens with a lot of kids. I think when things went bad, I think the team collectively had a very hard time dealing with adversity. I think this team will be different that way.
For me, as we head out, offensively, they're going to be able to get guys open. It's a matter of them executing it. I've seen enough in 2 games that schematically they're going to find a way to get guys open. It's about executing. If you execute, I think they're going to grow and grow to the point of lighting up the scoreboard pretty good. Defensively, they played better than I thought the last 2 weeks. So we'll see. I think the identity for this team better be improvement. It better be the ability to improve and finish games, finish drives in the red zone, finish the season out the right way. So 2 games in, no identity yet. We'll wait and see.
For me, it's one word: clean. They got to play clean.
Yep. To give themselves a chance, their identity better be one that they play clean football for sure, because 13 penalties last week and the turnovers last week were the reason why Tennessee did not win that game against the Pittsburgh Panthers. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Volquest.com Mailbag Podcast, presented by Smoky Mountain Organics. For Rob Lewis and Austin Price, I'm Brent Hubbs. Thanks for joining us. Have a great rest of your Thursday, everybody.
You've been listening to the Volquest Mailbag Podcast every week right here on Volquest.